Hey guys, welcome to another Double Tap on YouTube. I am Stephen Scott.
And I am Shaun Preece. Hello.
Hello, Shaun Preece. Tell me, what's your favourite animal?
Oh, that's a difficult one, Stephen. I want to say dog, but I also want to say chicken fried.
Quite different.
Yes.
Don't get them mixed up. Very important. I'm going to say rabbits.
I see where you're going.
Today.
Clever.
Yeah. See, the thing is, you can't get away with anything here on YouTube because people know what we're going to talk about before we even start because it's in the title. So you can't get away with it anymore. I'm going to talk today about the Rabbit R1. This is this amazing new AI device which has lots of interesting capability. Our good friend Robin Christopherson from AbilityNet in the UK, he has been writing about this on the AbilityNet blog. He joins us now. Robin, good to have you here on YouTube. We've got you onto YouTube. You hate YouTube, don't you?
Yes, I do. No, I don't. I love it. I'm so pleased to be here, and I'm going to remember to look at the camera at all times.
We're all blind. Who cares? Are we even looking at the camera? Who knows?
We don't know.
Tell us in the comments. Listen, it's great to have you here with us on the show because I want to talk to you about your article, which was very interesting, talking about Rabbit R1. Maybe you could start by explaining to people who don't know what it is, maybe a little bit about this device and what makes it stand out to you.
Yeah, so we had the Consumer Electronics Show. That's the big mainstream tech show a couple of months ago. And the major takeaway from CES, certainly the thing that got the most notice in the press, was the Rabbit R1. What is it? Well, it's a little gizmo, a little square device with a small screen, a little click wheel, and a couple of other things that we'll talk about in a moment. It's bright orange. I know rabbits don't usually come in that colour, but it's very affordable at a couple of $100 US dollars, and it flew off the shelves, so you couldn't get one now even if you wanted to. What is it? Okay, so it is a virtual assistant. Basically, it's powered by the likes of ChatGPT. It doesn't say exactly what is kind of behind the, working behind the scenes, but the major difference, so obviously you can talk to it. It's got a camera that is actually a 360 rotating camera. Not 100% sure why it needs to rotate and why you can't just turn the device around, but anyway. And a number of other sensors. It's got microphones and a speaker and that sort of thing. So you can use it as you would any other virtual assistant. You can ask it things, all the stuff that we know about now, and you'll get the super smart responses that you would from the likes of ChatGPT, for example. But where it really kind of stands apart, the way that it has hopped ahead of all of the competition,
very good.
is that it has this new idea of what's called a large action model. You've all heard of large language models, of course. That's the likes of Gemini and ChatGPT, etc. A large action model allows the smarts of the large language model, the super smart assistant, to have an impact in other things other than just getting you information and stuff like that. So, okay, what is a large action model? Well, we all know that you can interface with smart home devices, for example, using the S Lady on your phone or your Echo. You can ask it to turn the lights on and off, play music and stuff like that. But it's got a limited number of things it can do that actually interact with third-party services. And that usually takes a formal collaboration between the two companies. So, if you want to use Apple Music on your Echo, then that took a relationship between Apple and Amazon to make that happen. If you want to unlock your smart door lock on your house, then that takes a collaboration between your Echo, for example, and whoever is your smart door lock. I can't remember the makes of any at the moment. And that usually happens with what's called an API, an application programming interface. That API is like a handshake between, in this case, Apple or the Rabbit people, the Rabbit R1 manufacturers.
Also known as the Rabbit people. We're going to call them that.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of them. Teenage
Mutants?
Devices.
Rabbit Ninja.
It's called Teenage something. The people that have... apparently they're experts on design and this thing looks really cute. So basically it would take it would take a collaboration between, say, this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle people and the other company that would be, using your smart door locks and stuff like that. But with a large action model, it has this thing called teach mode. And what happens is you log onto a website, go onto a portal, and then interact with the website that you want to teach the rabbit how to use. And the large action model will learn about the UI of the different pages that you go through, what you click on to perform certain tasks. If it was the website of, your favorite local restaurant, for example, then it would learn what you have to click on to choose a number of people, the time of the day for the table, the date, etc. Maybe any other access requirements or dietary preferences, I don't know, the sort of things you'd put in. And then it would be able to use that website from then on. And then, even though there was no collaboration between those two devices, those two companies, it will basically go away and use that website just when you pick up your little rabbit and say, book a table for 6 p.m. Next Saturday at Romano's or whatever it might be. So this is huge, not just for everyone, which is why, it got so much press. It's basically taking the smarts of a virtual assistant and enabling it to work with everything, not just stuff that has that kind of official collaboration interaction, but it'll allow you to use websites in the first 1.0, and also they're promising apps as well. It'll be able to interact with apps on your phone. So really, really powerful. Promises to help us as disabled people even more than everybody else, because as we all know, using websites in particular can, they're really complicated. There's loads of information on there. It's so much, potential for not knowing what you're doing, not being able to interact with things, not getting the visual clues about, here's the obvious button to click on because it's not marked up in a way that our screen reader kind of picks it out as an important button. And obviously in the worst case scenario, we can't even use that website at all because it's not accessible. So I don't know what you guys think about this idea of a large action model, but that was the kind of main cause of the excitement that people had. And I know what you're thinking, why do we need to have a device to do that? Why couldn't it be just an app, for example, because your phone would be able to run all of these things and it's got a camera and mics and stuff like that. I think also the press was saying this is the genius of the rabbit people, the teenage mutant people, that it actually is done in a device that is really cute, really affordable, and has, can be that interface to whichever phone you've got, for example. You just have to carry this around and it will do those things for you in a much simpler interface. And the promise of it is that it will vastly simplify the interactions that you have with the digital world. You can just press a button, talk to it, scroll a wheel if you want to, look at more information than fits on the screen, or maybe just ask it to read it all out for you, that sort of thing. But promises to be much, much easier than navigating complex websites and apps that are potentially also inaccessible.
Wow. Okay, that was a very good description there, Robin. Well done, very detailed. This reminds me of the training mode, at least, reminds me of recording macros back in the day, and you still do, actually, where you just record the keystrokes or the mouse movements you want to do for repetitive tasks, and then you just play them back later on. This is taken to the next level, right? And this is, as you mentioned, so cool. I'm interested, though. And I was thinking exactly that when you brought it up about, well, why isn't this just an app or a software? But I'm very interested in what do you see this achieving for you? Are you just thinking about this from the accessibility point of view, or do you see this taking over from every other voice assistant that you have? Are you quite happy to carry another device around with you?
It's a really good question. I don't know if I could buy it from Amazon for that price today. I'm not sure if I would, mainly because it's a V1 product. It's version 1. They are saying that certain other things like the ability to teach it apps aren't coming yet. I don't know if that will require new hardware, maybe not. But I'd rather have something that, like you were saying, could be built into your phone that you've got anyway. So just, have an alternative virtual assistant that is using the Rabbit OS lady, and maybe assign that to the action button if you've got an iPhone 15, that sort of thing. So yeah, I'd probably go for that if that were available. But the idea of not having to use apps, or in particular websites, definitely appeals to me. I love technology, but I don't necessarily like using it sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'd rather use a much simpler way of controlling things. Yeah.
One of the interesting things that I spotted with this is that you essentially are logging into your various accounts through this device, if I'm understanding correctly. So you are actually using the device to log in. So is there a privacy concern here? Are there any issues around privacy? I know I sound like everyone's dad or granddad these days when I say things like this, but no one cares about privacy anymore, right? But I do. Kind of. I mean, to some degree, I maybe should actually listen to the iPhone app that continually tells me that I've got 237 compromised passwords.
Me too.
Just let's ignore that for a second and actually imagine I care. So, on that basis, would my data be safe using something like this if it's going off and logging in for me and doing all that?
Yes, and that's one of the big question marks, obviously. How trusted are these people? Jury's out on that one, although the likes of Microsoft had a 400 million or 40 million user account breach a couple of months ago. So is any company safe in that regard?
That's a good question.
Yeah. So there's a few other question marks. Do you have to train it on every website that you want to then use that doesn't have this kind of API collaboration already in place, or will other people's kind of teaching of common websites fall into a big bucket that means that the rabbit gets smarter and smarter, because I don't want necessarily to have to teach it all of these, and so that kind of leads on to the question, well, if other people have trained it, then do I just give the rabbit my personal data, everything about me, my name, my passwords for all these different common sites that I use, my, payment details, all the different things that you'd have to have that it would need to know to be able to go off to a random website and buy something for me, or book a ticket for something, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's still quite a few question marks, but I think the principle that people are getting excited about is the fact that this new wave of AI goodness could actually mean that we won't have to physically click through or tap through websites or apps ourselves anymore. That's a really
important question, isn't it? Because to stretch this rabbit metaphor as far as we can go, does it allow us to leap over the barrier of inaccessibility?
Oh, well done. That was beautiful.
Look, it's a serious question, though, right? Because if you think, well, hang on, does this let developers off the hook if their website's inaccessible? You don't have to worry about it because it can have a device like Rabbit or whatever comes out in the future could just get past that and get straight to what you're looking for. And if we get to that stage and it works, do we care that developers don't worry about accessibility? Because we can still get access anyway.
Huge question. And we've at AbilityNet have done lots of posts and indeed webinars on whether AI will be able to help developers to create more accessible code, browsers bridge the gap of inaccessibility when you land on a page that have got issues, people who test for compliance, like AbilityNet's accessibility team do, will it help them to be able to remediate inaccessible code as well? So yeah, there's loads of kind of big questions there as well. But AI, I think, we're already seeing that it plays a massive part in our daily lives, really, with particularly image processing and description and stuff like that. And I guess this is just like one step further from that. It looks at each page or screen of the website or app, recognizes it, intuitively knows what things to click on, and even if they've moved or had a new style of color of the website, like a rebrand or whatever, it won't be thrown by that. It will know exactly what to do because it kind of knows. about what a web page is like and how a UI works, whether it's a date picker or a carousel or whatever it might be. So huge promise, I think, definitely.
It kind of reminds me of screen recognition, or at least the promise of what screen recognition was going to be, but takes it to the next level of being actually able to, take part and activate those various elements. Screen recognition, when it was first released for the iPhone, was just to almost recognize elements that were unlabeled. And it never really worked for me in any way that I found particularly useful. There's these odd apps where turning it on may make some text available, but I really struggled with it. This seems like like I said, the next level.
And that's a perfect segue into another animal that we could talk about if we've got time, which is a ferret. Can we talk about ferrets?
Yes. Let's talk about ferrets. So what is this all? Because I'm hearing this name come up a bit more. This is to do with Apple, right? This is an Apple AI.
Yeah. So everything that we've just talked about, put it into your iPhone, which is kind of what I alluded to earlier as being my preference anyway. So I don't know if it's...
So the ferret lives and the rabbit's dead?
Let's hope that they can coexist in harmony.
Yeah, harmony.
Yeah, just near the twain. Keep one in one pocket and one in the other. So yeah, the Ferret UI is Apple's approach to, it's like the next gen screen recognition that Shaun was talking about. So they originally announced this back in October, but they've published a new paper this week on exactly what it's going to look like. I don't know if they'll announce some more at WWDC in June, but if it is going to come out in iOS 18, then they'll definitely have to. Now, what is it? It's exactly what we've been talking about. It will know about how to interact with apps and websites. So, and I'm sure it'll have S-Lady integration. So maybe from iOS 18, we'll be able to ask the S-Lady what Italian restaurants are there in a mile radius, and obviously she can do that already. She'll come back and tell you, and you could say, tell me about Romano's or something, and she'll say, I am on their homepage now, what do you want to know? So she's physically going there. I don't know whether you'll see anything on the screen or whether she's just kind of doing it in the background, but she's visiting that website. You could say, what mains do they have for vegetarians less than £10? And that may or may not be on the home screen of the website, but she'll know how to click through or tap through to get to that. Being Apple, obviously, she'll already have all of your information about Apple Pay and, your address and all the things, your phone number that you might need to put in to be able to fulfill that process, that transaction. But she'll basically say, everything that you need. She'll prompt you and you can say, okay, book a table for 6 for Saturday night at 7 p.m. or something.
That's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And ditto with apps. So how much is the MX keys on Amazon today? And, maybe she'll open up the app this time and she'll tell you how much, and you can say, what are the tech specs? And she'll be able to access those. And there's no API here. There's no kind of previous collaboration. She's just using the app.
Yeah,
but buy it now, that sort of thing.
Proper assistant for your phone, right?
Yeah.
It's built in and it's across the entire device. And you can imagine things like booking flights, some of the challenges that we have around that as blind people. It's a horrible experience.
Absolutely.
So this can really, really help. It's fascinating to learn how this is moving along. WWDC, of course, is coming up in June 10th, and everyone's very excited about it. I certainly am. I think the three of us will probably be together that evening, all geeking out on the big announcements, because, look, it's going to be a major one this year, potentially. Although you never know with Apple. That's the thing. You just don't know what they're going to announce. No. But I think if they don't, and I assume you'd agree here, that if Apple don't get their act together with AI this year, then they've got a problem.
Yep. It'll be all about the AI, definitely. And I don't think you'll hear the word ferret, just saying. But that's
no, probably not.
Definitely the code. code name at the moment.
Robin, wonderful to talk to you. Remind people how to access AbilityNet and the services it provides.
Brilliant. So yeah, go to abilitynet.org.uk for all things technology and disability. So that's pan technology, the really, whiz-bang stuff right down to the simple, and pan disability. So whatever your disability or multiple disability, hopefully abilitynet.org.uk is a useful place to go.
Yeah, well, as we say on our sister TV show, Access Tech Live, we are pan disability, although I've yet to get onto QVC to sell my disability pans, but I'm hoping that day will come. Robin, as always, good to talk to you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Robin.
And if we are allowed to get that out on air, then we will be back again next time for even more Double Tap on YouTube. Thank you, Shaun.
Thank you. Bye-bye.